Hello, everyone. We're getting ready to start the webinar this month. 3 steps to take to plan your profitable exit from practice now. I'm Dr. Bill Davis. I'll be your host for today's webinar. Very excited to get started here in just a little over 2 minutes. We'll be starting right at the top of the hour. Today's webinar is 3 steps to take to plan your profitable exit from practice now. How to leave a legacy, transition out of practice well, and have money for retirement. A lot of great stuff in this webinar coming up here just in about 2 minutes. We'll be starting right at the top of the hour. If you can focus in now, get your notepad ready or whatever you're going to be taking notes on. A lot of great stuff in this webinar that you're going to be able to apply no matter where you are really in practice. And so we're coming up real quick on the webinar here, starting in just about 2 minutes. 3 steps to take to plan your profitable exit from practice now. I am Dr. Bill Davis, and we will be starting here in just about a minute and a half. And thank you for joining us. We keep getting more and more of you coming on. We'll be starting here in just a little over a minute on the webinar for this month. 3 steps to take to plan your profitable exit from practice now. I'm Dr. Bill Davis from UCM Practice Growth Systems, and we're getting ready to start here in just about a minute. Today's webinar, 3 steps to take to plan your profitable exit from practice now. We're going to be talking about how to leave a legacy, how to transition out of practice well, and how to have money for retirement. I am Dr. Bill Davis, UCM founder and CEO, and we will be getting started in just about a minute. We'll be starting right at the top of the hour. Coming up here very, very soon. Thank you for joining us as you continue to get on this webinar. 3 steps to take to plan your profitable exit from practice now. How to leave a legacy, transition out of practice well, and have money for retirement. Be coming up just about a little over 30 seconds from now. We'll be getting started. I'm Dr. Bill Davis, UCM founder and CEO, and we are getting ready to start in just about 30 seconds. Thank you for joining us, and we will be starting right here at the top of the hour. Coming up here very soon, 3 steps to take to plan your profitable exit from practice now. Thank you for joining us. I'm Dr. Bill Davis, and we are almost ready to start here. Just a few more seconds, 20 seconds or so. We'll be getting started. Very excited to get this information to you. A lot of great stuff here to get you ready to transition out of practice. No matter where you are in practice, it's important to have a plan. Hello, I'm Dr. Bill Davis. Welcome to the webinar for this month. This is UCM Practice Growth Systems webinar of the month, and we are going to be talking about 3 steps to take to plan your profitable exit from practice now. We're going to talk about how to leave a legacy, transition out of practice well, and have money for retirement. Again, I'm Dr. Bill Davis with UCM Practice Growth Systems. If you don't know me, I was blessed to build a successful all-cash upper cervical practice before breaking my neck mountain biking, and since then founded and UCM Practice Growth Systems. And we're about to celebrate our 12th anniversary here on March 1st. And so we've been doing this for a long time, helping upper cervical specialists grow their practices. That's what we're all about. So why should you listen to me? We've been blessed to help over 300 upper cervical doctors in the past 12 years grow their practices, double dozens of practices, help doctors build $1 million practices, add associates, add locations, start practices profitably, add additional team members, improve efficiency, effectiveness. This is what we do all day, every day. Excited to help doctors grow. We also produce lots and lots of content. If you're not aware, if this is your first time and you're interacting with us, we have interviewed over 175 of the most successful upper cervical chiropractors in the world, surveyed over 1,000 upper cervical practices in the past 10 years with our annual upper cervical practice survey, and have written 2 editions of our book, Upper Cervical Practice Mastery. And we're constantly producing content, podcasts, webinars, blog posts, social media. And so, if you're not already connected with us, highly recommend you do. Go to the website, go to ucmgrow.com and get connected with us there. We are constantly producing great content to help you grow your practice. Also wanted to tell you about something that is very exciting here. It's something we've never offered before, and it's exclusive anniversary offer that we're offering for the month of March as we celebrate 12 years of serving the upper cervical chiropractic industry. We are offering a professional photographer to come to your office and be able to take pictures and get, great images of you and your team and your office, and really have something that is just so valuable for your practice to have professional photographs taken. And we're offering this for free for anyone that signs up for a website or a system in March. The first 12 offices that do this, only the first 12 offices that sign up for a website or system in March are going to get a professional photographer coming into your office. It's a $500 value. And that is a incredible value, credible thing to take advantage of. Just go over to the website, ucmgrow.com, schedule an appointment. We can tell you more about it, talk to you about, redesigning your website or creating a practice growth system for you to help you grow your practice. And you will also get the benefit of this professional photographer coming into your office as well. So go over to the website, ucmgrow.com, and you can take advantage of this exclusive offer. So what we're going to be talking about today is really focused on docs who are in the last stage of growth, which is the legacy doc stage. This is when you're ready to retire or sell your practice or relocate or go into a different business. Primarily, it's for docs in that stage of practice, but really some of the things we're going to be talking about today are applicable no matter where you are in practice, because everyone should be thinking about what is the plan for leaving a legacy. What is the plan for exiting from your practice? Because at some point you are going to exit from your practice. And if you don't have a good plan in place, what we don't want to see happen, which we unfortunately have seen happen many times, is that practices just end up closing because there was no plan. There was no plan to transition to another doctor or to sell the practice or, anything else related to keeping that practice going so that you can continue to serve your community. And so we don't want that to happen. So we want to give you an opportunity to really build out a plan starting today, no matter where you are in your practice growth journey. Whether you're at that place where you're close, say within 5 years of transitioning out of practice or not, a lot of these things we talk about today are going to be important foundational steps to be able to eventually transition your practice well. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So the question we need to answer is, what needs to be true for your practice to be sellable? Right? What needs to be true for your practice to be sellable? Because if you're aware of how businesses sell, there are certain factors that need to be in place for a practice or for any business that matter to be something that is valuable to someone else to buy. And just because it's you have a business doesn't mean someone wants to buy it, or something doesn't mean that it's actually sellable. And so we're going to be talking about 3 things that really are crucial for your practice to be sellable, to be something that will be able to be sold to someone else. So that's what we're going to be focusing in on right now, is 3 steps to take to plan your profitable exit from practice now. So let's talk about the first step. The first step is to create a multi-doctor practice. And this is something that we've been talking about for 12 years with UCM is the importance of moving out of a solo doctor practice. And obviously there's many different reasons why we encourage doctors to do that, but one of the reasons is it allows your practice to be sellable, and it allows you to get in a place where you can actually sell it to someone else. It also allows you to help a lot more people in your community, gives you more freedom, helps you to make more money, helps you to, help more patients, helps you to provide more jobs for the upper cervical practice industry. There are lots of different reasons why a multi-doctor practice makes sense. But for this purpose, when we're talking about planning a profitable exit from practice, why is it so important to have a multi-doctor practice? And the reason why is because solo practices have limited value. And there's some key reasons why that's true. Number one is if a solo practice, the business is tied to the owner's reputation in many ways, right? Patients associate the practice with the individual chiropractor, not necessarily the brand, right? If it was me, if I'm in a solo practice, they're going to associate the practice with Dr. Davis, not with, the name of my practice. And when the owner leaves, many patients will not stay, and that will reduce the practice's long-term value. This can lead to a high patient attrition rate. It can make the practice less attractive. Another reason why solo practices have limited value is because of a lack of scalable systems. Solo practices often rely on the individual doctor to handle many different aspects of the practice, including all of the patient care, marketing, the management of the practice, management of every patient, right? Without a strong team or documented processes, which are usually not associated with solo practices, the transition to a new owner can be very difficult. So let's talk about how to increase a solo practice's value. The number one thing is working to hire an associate doctor, right? And we've talked a lot about that on other webinars and podcasts and so forth of what you need to do in order to get to that place. Typically, you need to be collecting around $35,000 to $40,000 per month with about a 50% overhead. If you get to that place, then you need to put the systems in place to hire an associate doctor, and then you can begin to move out of this solo practice place where your practice has limited value and move into a multi-doctor practice. Other ways to increase a solo practice's value is to develop systems and processes that a new owner can easily follow, right? You want a new owner to be able to step in and continue to make the practice work and make it so that it continues to work well, even when the original owner isn't there. And then another thing is to make sure you build a recurring revenue model. Instead of having pay-per-visit practice, which is extremely not an attractive type of practice to purchase, you want to have a practice that is built on care plans, that's built on wellness memberships, that's built on things like that have more of a recurring revenue model, and that will again make the practice much more likely to be sold. You also want to make sure you have strong patient retention and staff stability. The longer your staff has been there, the better. The more well trained they are, the better. The longer patients are there, the better, right? All of that improves the value of a practice. And then making sure that you actually have a plan for a structured and gradual transition to retain patient trust is important as well, right? You don't want to just sell the practice, toss the keys to them and leave. You want to have a process where you're working together to transition the practice well so that they can retain as many patients as possible. So those are all ways to increase a solo practice's value, but it has to start with hiring that first associate doctor. So step number 2 is to prepare a legacy plan. And legacy plan is exactly what it sounds like. It's a plan to keep the legacy of your practice going, that it'll transition to someone else, that it'll continue on beyond you. And starting the first part of developing a legacy plan is to define your exit goals, right? What are you trying to do and when are you trying to do it, right? So you want to decide whether you want to sell the practice outright or transition to an associate. But what you don't want to do is just phase it out gradually, because that's the worst possible situation for an upper cervical practice. You want to set a target retirement date and financial goals, right? You want to be thinking about, all right, well, this is when I want to transition out of practice, and this is how much money I want to have at that point saved, invested. This is what I envision I'm going to get for my practice, and we'll talk more about valuation later. All these types of things in mind as you are planning your exit. You also want to consider if you want to maintain any involvement in the practice post-sale. Some doctors want to continue to consult with the practice in some way, shape, or form, or mentor the new clinic owner, right? Or some things like that. And establishing a timeline for that, of if you do want to stay involved in some way beyond the sale, what that looks like. Another part of establishing a legacy plan is to set up your estate plan, right? You want to establish or update your estate plan. So this is a will or a trust. These are the most common things that you need to have in place. You want to make sure that you spell out what happens with the business sale proceeds, right? This is obviously if you sell the practice, or if you pass away and then the practice goes on to your beneficiaries, right? So you want to consider a revocable living trust, to avoid probate for sure. You want to choose or update your beneficiaries, designate who will receive the practice sale proceeds, other assets, update life insurance policies, retirement accounts, business interests, all these types of things, and assign the power of attorney, healthcare directive. It appoints someone to handle financial medical decisions if you become incapacitated. Ensure they have authority over business-related matters. So this is just good planning, no matter where you are in practice, to have this set up that if anything happens to you, that there'll be clear directions on what needs to happen with the practice. That's a really important part of having a legacy plan in place. And it's going to give your spouse peace of mind. It's going to give your team more peace of mind. They would need to know what happens to you, or what happens to the practice if something happens to you. On this legacy plan, you'll need some people to help you with it, right? Obviously, with the estate planning, an estate planning attorney is typically who's going to help you to draft or update your will, trusts, legal documents, those types of things. We also recommend working with a practice consultant. We do help doctors with this. We help doctors build out a transition plan. And it really is important to have somebody that can kind of coordinate all the different aspects of this, because there is a lot of different things that are involved in this when it comes to transitioning out of practice well. You'll also need a CPA or tax advisors to help reduce capital gains, estate tax liabilities. You may need a financial planner to reinvest or manage proceeds post-sale. And you may need a business broker as well when you get closer to sale, just to help you maximize the value of your practice and get buyers, right? So these are some of the people that you want to be thinking about starting to either, add into your group of advisors, or start to think about that as that time comes. Another thing that's really important when it comes to this legacy plan, and even just transitioning out of practice, is getting your personal financial house in order. It's crucial that you're in a good, strong financial position when you exit from practice. You don't want to be in a position where you don't you're living paycheck to paycheck or something like that when you transition out of practice, and you're counting on this, the money coming from your practice to live on for the rest of your life. You want to be doing as much as you can to put your house in order, get things ready for you to have plenty of money in retirement and be able to enjoy those last few years of your life. And so what I've always used to keep my personal financial house in order is the Dave Ramsey baby steps. And this is something that was established by, the Ramsey Solutions over the past 3 decades. They've gone through and they've created this plan, and it's been extremely beneficial for me and my family. And it's what I recommend to people all the time. And it really starts with, having an initial $1,000 starter emergency fund where you've set aside $1,000 in a savings account just to cover unexpected expenses, right? Hopefully anyone who's watching this webinar has, they're finished with baby step number 1. They have at least $1,000 saved. Step 2 is to pay off all of your debt. This is any credit cards, car loans, anything except for your mortgage. Pay off all of your debt. That's that baby step 2. And the way you can do that is with what's called a debt snowball, where you list your debts from smallest to largest and you pay them off in order while making minimum payments on all the others. And I did this and I was able to pay off hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt over time as I really chipped away at all my debt, school loans, right? All these kinds of things, any business loans, anything that you have out there that's loans other than your mortgage on your primary residence, you want to get paid off. When you get to that place when you have no debt except for your mortgage, it's an incredible feeling. And then that moves you into baby step 3, which is to save, go back to that original $1,000 emergency fund and build that emergency fund up to 3 to 6 months of expenses. And that's a fully funded emergency fund. This is a safety net to cover living expenses in case of emergencies. And again, these first 3 steps really is about establishing a really solid foundation for you and your family to be able to take care of the most basic of things related to your finances. And then from there, then you start moving into more of a future looking phase of personal finances. And step number 4 is to invest 15% of your household income into retirement. And so you contribute 15% of your gross income to retirement accounts like a 401k or Roth IRA. I'll talk more about that later. You also want to be, saving for your children's college fund. If you have kids, investing in a 529 or an education savings account or whatever is available in your state for your kids' education, for each of your kids, if you have multiple kids. And then baby step 6 is paying off your home early. This is, once you get to that point, making extra payments, eliminate your mortgage as quickly as possible. And then lastly is, baby step 7, where you have no debt, you have a fully funded emergency fund, you're investing in retirement, you're investing in your kids' college fund, and you just, you're really in a really strong financial place. That's when you can really build wealth and give generously, continue investing, use your wealth to help others live financially free. And so I would encourage you, if you're looking to transition out of practice, work to the place where you can get to baby step 7, right? Where you have no debt and you have all of these other things in place. That's going to give you the best opportunity to have a successful transition out of practice if you're in that place of baby step 7 on a personal financial basis. So, another thing just wanted to mention here as it relates to your 401k, as it talks about in the baby steps, investing 15% of your gross income into a retirement account. For most of us who are business owners, if you're a practice owner, once you're debt free, except for your mortgage, and you have a fully funded emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of expenses, you want to start investing that 15% of your gross household income into retirement. But really, you want to try to max out your contribution into a 401k. If you have a 401k established for your business where you offer that to your employees and to you as well, all your team members, and you have your spouse works within the practice or is an employee of the practice, you want to try to max out your contribution into your 401k and also your spouse's 401k every year. That's the ideal situation, right? So for instance, max contribution for this year is $23,500 each. And so that would be, you want to be putting that into 401k if possible. Every year is maxing out those contributions for both you and your spouse. And I'll also encourage you to offer a 401k match, right? So, whatever that is, 3%, 4%, 5%, whatever it is, where you're matching whatever, any of your team members puts into a 401k, the company matches that. If you have that, that's again, another way you can get even more money into your 401k every year to increase your retirement savings even more. I also recommend that you use a Roth 401k. A Roth 401k instead of a traditional Roth 401k is much more effective when it comes to retirement savings. All contributions are after tax, so withdrawals in retirement are tax free. So this is, so you pay taxes on this money on the front end, right? But everything that you've put into there, all the increase within the Roth 401k is tax free. So that's hugely beneficial, right? And just like as a comparison, if you invest $10,000 into a Roth 401k, you pay taxes on that $10,000, right? Whatever that your tax rate is. But then let's say that when you take that out of that 401k, it's grown from $10,000 to $100,000. Well, that $90,000 in increase, when you take that out, you don't pay any taxes on that, right? As opposed to a traditional 401k, if you put that $10,000 in, you don't pay taxes on it at that time. But if it grows to 100,000 and you take that 90,000 out, you pay taxes on that full 90,000, right? So it's much more beneficial to do the Roth 401k, as you'll get that tax-free growth on your investments. Another thing to be thinking about is like how to actually invest your 401k. Again, this is something that I've learned from the Ramsey organization, is to invest in growth stock mutual funds. Ramsey advises allocating your 401ks evenly across 4 types of mutual funds for diversification and long-term growth. 25% into growth and income funds. These are large, stable companies, blue chip stocks, typically called large cap mutual funds. 25% into growth funds. These are medium, large U.S. companies with strong growth potential, medium cap. 25% into aggressive growth. These are small cap funds. And 25% into international funds. And that helps you to diversify globally. And so when you break your 401k investments into these 4 different categories, it really helps to balance out your investing. Another thing to be thinking about when it comes to your 401k is to stay invested for the long term, right? I don't recommend investing in single stocks, bonds, or trying to time the market. Just stick with that mutual fund strategy. Invest consistently, right? If you can invest every month, that's the best, where you can really get that benefit of investing at a lot of different times. And then just stay the course through market ups and downs. Just keep investing. When the market's down, things are on sale. You're buying, you're getting the benefit of that. And so that's really important stuff when it comes to investing in your 401k. Now, another thing to be thinking about when it comes to your legacy plan is trying to figure out what is your practice worth, and then, evaluating that over time. And so there's 3 main standard valuation methods out there. There's the income-based approach, which probably is the most common. This uses a net income and cash flow to estimate value. This is the EBITDA way of evaluating businesses, right? This is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, EBITDA, times an industry multiplier. Typical chiropractic industry multipliers range from 1.5 times to 3 times EBITDA, depending on the practice's profitability, location, and risk factors, right? This works best for highly profitable practices with steady incomes. This is one way that many business brokers will evaluate your practice and give you a number when it comes to how much your practice is worth. Another way is the market-based approach. This compares your practice to similar recently sold practices in your area. Now, this may or may not be beneficial because you may not have had any practices sold in your area recently. But if you do, this is a way you can compare it. if it's a similar type practice, similar size practice and whatnot. They also may use price per revenue or price per patient ratios in this particular valuation approach. Things like, half a times or 1 times annual revenue is a common benchmark, or $150 to $500 per active patient, depending on patient retention and case types. This is best, again, for estimating fair market value based on real sales data, but it may or may not be beneficial depending on how many sales have happened in your area. And the third one, which is probably the one I like the best, is the profit method. And this is where you determine your average profit after all expenses, including your salary, over the past 3 years, right? So you look at your practice historical data for the past 3 years, and you find out what the profit of the practice is after all expenses have been paid, including your salary. And you multiply that profit number times 4 and times 5. So you get a range between 4 and 5 times of profit. So for example, a practice that has an average profit of $100,000 is worth between $400,000 and $500,000, right? 4 to 5 times that $100,000. So this one is, I like this one. This one is usually the way that we will give doctors a at least a ballpark on what their practice is worth. And again, this is just for you to understand where you're at with your practice, and where, if you grow it, how much of a bigger exit you can make over time. So that was step 2. Creating that legacy plan involves a lot of different things: your personal finances, your estate planning, figuring out what your practice is worth. All these types of things is all part of that legacy plan to really get it laid out and figured out what needs to happen with the practice. And then step 3 is to systematize your practice. The more your practice is systematized, the more valuable it is to a buyer. So what systems need to be in place? There's actually quite a few systems that you want to make sure that you have in place when you go to sell your practice. So I'm going to walk through each of these systems. So the first one is the financial and accounting systems, right? You want to have clean and organized financials. You want to maintain at least 3 to 5 years of profit and loss statements, balance sheets, and tax returns, right? So anyone that's going to be coming in and buying your practice, they're going to need to see all of that information. So you have to have really good, clean records when it comes to your financials. You want to show consistent revenue and profitability trends, right? You want to see that your practice is growing and not dying. That's going to help you get a better price for it. You want to use like QuickBooks or another accounting software so you have accurate records. You also want to have defined billing and collection processes, right? This is, if you're billing insurance in any way, you got to make sure, you got to show that that's happening efficiently, that you're getting good reimbursements, those types of things. But even if you're using cash-based payment systems, you want to make sure that you have, a strong account receivable process in place, that there's not any, you're not chasing down patient payments for months at a time, or you don't have a bunch of people in collections and all that kind of stuff. And the best way to do this is just to have automatic payments set up. If you have, automatic monthly payments, those types of things is going to always be the best when it comes to that collection process for patient income. Some other financial and accounting systems to make sure you have in place is to have a clear expense and overhead management, right? You want to make sure that you're documenting all your overhead, that you can say, hey, this is what my overhead number is. Keep that overhead as low as you can, but sustainable. And you might be able to show where there's some cost cutting that the new owner could do to even increase profitability. And as we mentioned earlier, it's important to have a recurring revenue model, right? Instead of one-time patient visits, long-term care plans, memberships, wellness programs is always going to lead to a higher resale value. Buyers prefer businesses with predictable recurring income. Along with those systems, you also want to make sure you have patient retention and marketing systems in place, right? So showing that you have a strong active patient base, documenting all of your patient statistics, right? You want to be able to show a buyer what your patients, how many patients you've been seeing per month, how many new patients you've been seeing per month, what's your PVA, you show retention rates and all these kinds of things. You want to be able to show that you have a stable flow of new patients, right? 20 to 30 new patients per month is ideal. If you can show that, year after year, that's ideal situation. You also want to have automated and repeatable marketing strategies in place. This is obviously what a lot of people know us for, is to help doctors to build these automated and repeatable marketing strategies. We've had several doctors over the years now that have sold their practices to a new doctor, and that new doctor, one of the reasons why they bought the practice is because they were already working with us and we had those automated and repeatable marketing strategies in place, and they were able to transition from the previous owner to the new owner and keep that same flow of new patients coming in. That's extremely beneficial. And many doctors that have bought practices from our clients have been able to work with us on even increasing their new patients just by doing more of what we were already doing when the new owner comes in. And so it starts with, some of these automated repeatable marketing strategies starts with like an SEO optimized website, strong Google My Business presence, social media, email campaigns, these types of things that drive leads, and also making sure that you have things like referral programs in place, and that you're getting consistent referrals is also something else to show that makes the practice more beneficial or more valuable. You want to have that that branding and patient engagement consistent. Other ways that other systems for generating new patients, if you can show that, from whether it's digital ads or community outreach or workshops or screenings, health practitioner referral networks from MDs, PTs, or other practitioners that refer patients to you, all these types of things. The more streams of new patients that are coming into your practice, the more beneficial and more profitable it is to sell that practice to someone else. In addition, you want to have operational and administrative systems in place, right? A documented SOPs, having those documented SOPs, standard operating procedures with clear step-by-step guides for daily operations, office management, patient intake, billing, compliance procedures, all this kind of stuff. Having all that in place in a, in employee handbook, in an SOP guide, that type of thing, a master list. That's really important to be able to show a potential buyer. You also want to have staff training and accountability systems in place, right? If you have a competent team that can run the office without you present, that's definitely something that is beneficial to a buyer to see. You want to have, as we mentioned earlier, making sure you have an associate doctor, a well-trained CA to make the transition smoother. Having things in place for your team, right? With position agreements and job scorecards, so that the team is held accountable to results. And having HIPAA and compliance systems in place as well, making sure all patient records, privacy policies meet legal standards. You have an EHR system in place. All this kind of stuff is really important, again, just to show that you have a systematized practice. The fourth system that should be in place is practice independence from the owner, right? If you can reduce dependence on the owner, the less the practice relies on the personal brand of the doctor and the relationships. Again, this is why it's so important to not have a solo practice when you're going to sell the practice. Delegating responsibilities so that a new owner can step in without losing patients is obviously a key system that needs to be in place. And having that transition plan, we mentioned that earlier, having a smooth transition plan or period of 3 to 6 months, usually, where you introduce a new doctor is really important before leaving. And then the last system group that should be in place is legal and exit strategy systems, right? So this is a clear ownership and business structure, having clear, like lease agreements and contracts and vendor relationships that are transferable. If you're renting, you want to negotiate an assignable lease to the new buyer. You want to have defined sale terms and evaluation strategy, get a formal valuation from a practice broker at some point, decide if you're, offering seller financing or an earn out option. These are different options that you can do when actually getting the money from the person. And as we mentioned earlier, just making sure that your estate and tax planning is dialed in. You want to work with a CPA, estate attorney, minimize capital gains tax, consider an installment sale to reduce the tax burden. That may be a good way to do it, where you get money over several years. So these are all things to be thinking about when it comes to the systemization of the practice. And that's that third step that you want to get in place. And what we're going to look at now is what it looks like as far as practically having like a practice exit plan, checklist, and timeline. So we'll talk about, here's what you do 3 to 5 years out, 2 years out, 1 year out, 3 to 6 months out, and so forth. So this is really helpful for you if you are in that place where you're in that, that final stage of transitioning out of practice. So the first thing is, 3 to 5 years out, you want to be defining your exit goals, figure out, what kind of an exit strategy you're doing, what is that retirement date, what's your financial goals to be at that point, what you're going to do post-sale. Are you going to be involved in some way for a bit or not? What are you going to do after you stop practicing? Are you going to go into a different business? Are you going to, whatever you're going to do? And then this is, usually when you would want to, usually about 3 years out or so, you try to get a professional practice valuation where you bring a business broker in and have them give you a full breakdown. And they may give you some areas where you can focus in on to improve the value of the practice. And that may be something that you can work on over those 3 to 5 years to maximize the sale price. Also in this, you want to be working on making sure that, everything is accurate. You have accurate financial records. You're optimizing revenue, right? By reducing expenses, improving collections, automating systems, right? And developing an exit strategy. Who's going to stay on with the practice? Who will be there, when you transition over? And how are you going to transition your patients effectively? Developing a plan for all this types of stuff. And having that, of course, that associate doctor in the practice at that point is crucial. So then 2 years out, this is really when you want to continue to focus on maximizing the business value, increase profitability by, expanding services, retaining patients longer, becoming more efficient, seeing more patients per week, reducing personal reliance on the practice by empowering associates and staff, right? So that's, it's not relying as much on you, and, making sure that you have clear documentation, SOPs for every aspect of the operation of the practice. You want to be really getting that dialed in a couple of years out before sale. And this is also when you want to be identifying potential buyers, right? Either working with a business broker or other ways. Consider selling either, to your associate, to another chiropractor, that may be in your local area, or another group, or a new doctor coming out of school, whatever it may be that you're looking to sell to. And if you're selling externally, like I said, that's when you really want to be working with a business broker. You want to vet buyers carefully, ensure that they're a good cultural, operational fit for your patients, your team, and then really, really dial in the tax implications at that time, about 2 years out. This is when you want to talk with that CPA and financial planner to minimize tax burdens, explore options like the installment sales, asset allocation strategies, different things like that. Now, about a 1 year out before the exit, this is when you actually are going to be negotiating the sale. You want to finalize that sales structure. Either it's a lump sum payment, it's seller financing, some sort of other transition. This is when you actually draft the agreements. You include purchase price, non-compete clauses, transition terms, all those kinds of things. You want to ensure that all the legal and financial paperwork's in order. You want to start to communicate the transition to staff and patients. You want to be wise on this. Don't do it too soon. Don't do it too early, but tell staff privately, address their concerns, develop a patient transition plan, messaging strategy, how you're going to communicate it to patients. And then start scheduling some joint patient appointments with the new doctor. This is usually, it can be that more in that 3 to 6 month range. Plan your post-practice life. What are you going to do afterwards? Make sure you're in that strong personal financial position. explore new career consulting or investment opportunities that you may be doing after you're out of practice. And then lastly, that 3 to 6 months before exit, you want to finalize the agreements, legal details, review the contracts with an attorney, ensure patient records, staff transitions plans are documented, assist with marketing for the new doc so that they can retain the patient flow, execute the patient and staff transition, right? Hosting like meet and greet events to introduce the new doctor, offer a smooth handoff period, and then prepare for the final transition, right? Then the last few months, last month even, transfer business licenses, insurance, legal obligations, set a final departure date and ensure proper closure at that point, and then celebrate your success, your legacy, that it's been passed on well to a new doctor, new owner of the practice. And so that's the 3 steps to take to plan your profitable exit from practice. Now, this is something that, as I said, if you're in practice growth stage 7, you absolutely want to be doing this now. If you are earlier on, you can certainly do a lot of these things now, even to start getting things in place so that you're ready to transition later. But as we said, the 3 steps were create a multi-doctor practice. So making sure you're getting in that place where you are hiring an additional doctor. It's not a solo practice. Step 2 was to prepare the legacy plan, right? Get all those different things in place. We've talked about estate planning, personal finances in order, getting an understanding of how much your practice is worth, those types of things. And then step 3 was to systematize your practice. Think through all the different systems that need to be in place for a practice to run well with a new owner. And as I said, there's a lot of different people you can work with on your plan, from business brokers and financial planners and CPAs and tax advisors and estate planning attorneys and all that. But, what I would encourage you to do, if no matter where you are in your practice, is to work with a consultant on this so they can coordinate the full transition plan. Really good understanding of what you want to do, what your goals are, and work with you on that plan. And so, now it's, what are you going to do now? If you're in practice growth stage 7, you're in that stage where you're ready to transition out of practice, we certainly would recommend you talk with us. We can walk with you on this plan, walk with you through these steps, and really help you to get a great plan in place to transition out well. And this is what we do. We've been helping doctors to grow practices and help many doctors to sell practices now over the years. And how we work together is we do an initial call with you where you schedule an appointment with us. We'll do an initial discovery call, discuss your practice goals, challenges, opportunities, analyze your practice potential. We'll do a follow-up call with you where we discuss a strategic growth plan, expectations, how to get started with us. Once you get started with us, we'll do your onboarding process where you work with our client success team, equip you for success. We'll launch your, different, if there's marketing components of your system, we'll launch all that, work with you on your breakthrough, helping you to get the best possible results possible, and then tell others and help us to grow Upper Cervical together. That's what we are all about. And as I mentioned earlier, we do have in celebration of our 12th anniversary, we are offering an exclusive anniversary offer for the first 12 offices that sign up with us during the month of March, either with getting a new website from us or a new system, practice growth system. We will send a professional photographer into your office for free to take pictures of you and your team, your office, that are going to be really fantastic for your new website or your new system. And so to schedule your appointment, get you going on this plan, just go to ucmgrow.com. That's ucmgrow.com and click on the Start Growing button, get an initial appointment, and we can help work with you on your plan. ucmgrow.com, click on Start Growing, and get started today. Thank you so much for being on this webinar today. Hope you learned a lot, and we are excited to help you continue to grow your practice and transition it well if that is your goal coming up soon. And as we always say, go team Upper Cervical.